Now that we have our deadly spikes in the world, we're going to work on fleshing out the get hit event so that the character reacts with a believable hit reaction every time they damage themselves on something in the game level. So we're going to remove that print string we had there before as a placeholder, and we're going to check to make sure the player character is not already being hit when we run the custom event get hit. We don't want multiple stack hit events. So we'll just plug in the isHit boolean, and we'll run this event off of false. And if it's false, we're going to set isHit to true. And then once that is set to true, we're going to grab a reference to the sprite component. And because this is an event-driven animation, we don't want this to run on a loop like the rest of the animations. We're going to take this sprite and we're going to set its looping state to false. So we'll search for set looping here, and it's false by default. That's what we want first off, so it plays the animation only once. Then we're going to set the flipbook to the animation, and we don't have an animation yet for the hit reaction, but this is where we will set that. And then because it's not looping, we have to play from start. Okay, so next, we're going to check for a few other things. We want something to happen. We want the animation to play, and we don't want anything else to happen until the animation is done playing, namely setting the isHit boolean to false. So we'll check the true or false state of isPlaying. If it's true, we're going to run a 0 duration delay so that it keeps looping while playing. And when it's completed, the Boolean result is false. At this point, we can set isHit to false again. Now that we've set the isHit Boolean here in this event, we're going to add it elsewhere as a condition for our anim state machine. Whenever this condition for being hit is true, we don't want this looping anim state machine to be running. So we're going to interrupt this, the anim state machine right here before the anim state is set, and we're going to check to see if anim is hit, and we only want this to run when it's false, so we connect the false node right like that. So now that our state machine is checking for that condition, we're going to go down here and back to our get hit event, and we see that looping was set to false at the start of the event. So I'm just going to create another sprite variable to clean up the event graph a little bit on the right side. So at the end of this event, we need to set isLooping back to true. If we don't do this, the anim state machine that runs on tick that we just looked at won't loop the animations as we want them to. Our next step will be to go back to our content browser and start planning out our get hit animation from sprites. So we'll go to the player character directory here, and we're going to locate a few sprites for getting hit that were extracted from the sprite sheet. Looks like there's some here. And I'm going to add in another one from the jump animation, just to give it a little bit more character. A little bit more style. Let's see. This one here, sort of the landing we didn't use, when he kneels down a little bit. So those 4 frames should make a decent flipbook. So we'll right click, create flipbook. We'll call it anim underscore hit. And right now the frames are very fast and all out of order. So we'll spend a little bit of time fixing this up. Let's see, I'm going to reorder these a little bit. I'll do 3, 1, 21, 2. There he goes, stumbles back. He kneels down. That's a little better. Let me see, we're going to duplicate a couple frames. I should say a couple keyframes. There we go. So we'll do 3, 1, 21, 2, 21, 3 perhaps. Let's see if this looks okay. Oh, we don't want to loop. We want that to run just straight through while we preview it. It's still really fast. Oh yeah, the frame run is set to 1, so we'll do a frame run of 3 to start for each of these keyframes. And okay, getting a little better, getting a little slower, a little smoother. Okay, so we want the part where his hand is in that down position, his left hand is in that down position, to be sort of the frame where he stays in that position a little bit before he stands back up. I'm going to check our timeline here and our keyframes to make that one frame a little longer, but the hand is down. I believe it's keyframe 2. So we'll set that to 15 seconds. And then we'll just test it out and see if that's okay. Because frames per second is 15, we want the frame run to be 1 second when he's kneeling down. So he stays in that position for a second. Okay, that's not the right frame. That means it would be the next frame, keyframe 3. Set that to 15 to give us 1 second with the hand in the down position. And he stays down and he gets back up. There we go. That looks good. Okay, next we're going to go in to our Flipbook, our set Flipbook function in the get hit event, and we set that to anim hit. And now I'm going to open this up and hit play. We can test this quickly. If I spawn in here and I jump on my spikes, we can see I go into that hit reaction. There we go, and I jump out of it, and I go back in. Yeah, that's a pretty good hit reaction, but we see now when I try to walk, you can see my feet aren't animating anymore. They're just going to the first frame of the walk animation. And that's a bug due to one last step we need to take in the get hit event. And that is after hit is set to true, set looping is set to true. But the way the flipbooks are set up, and this is an invisible thing I found through trial and error, is we need to restart playing that flipbook. So we need to hit play again. After set looping is set to true, play needs to be there. So the looping anim state machine will once again loop the walking animation when it receives input. So there we go. He does a hit reaction. And now we can see when we move, the feet are moving again. So that gives us a decent start on our hit reaction. Next, we'll look at adding some force feedback for when the character gets hit, and maybe a flashing effect to make it look a little more different than the other animations that the character has.